Hello there, welcome to JonnyBuildz. I am your host Johnny, and with me again for episode 6 review of the Lego Masters Season 5 is Krista and Marcella, the Pittsburgh Piles. How you guys doing tonight?
Hello. Good, how are you?
Doing good. How you doing?
Doing good, enjoying Florida weather. I'm sure you guys are having quite the heat wave a little bit further north.
It is very hot, and we have thunderstorms tonight. So if I suddenly cut out, it's because the combo of heat and thunderstorms, the power keeps going out randomly. So
Yeah, that would not be good.
Yeah.
no.
And I'm in Delaware at the beach, so we just got heat right now.
Just heat. No thunderstorms, just heat. Well, the thunderstorms will be on their way, so.
They are.
All right. So, a very, very interesting episode for this week. And before we get started, this is the Batman episode. And for you two, like, are you DC fans? Are you Batman specific fans? Like what is your experience or your enjoyment of the Batman?
I have the Michael Keaton Batman poster hanging up in my office right here. So,
Nice.
Yeah. Growing up, I used to have the original cutout from the video store, you know how they had that cardboard cutout when the movie first came out. So I had that at home. They gave it to us after so long, and I had it on my wall until it fell off one night and Michael Keaton landed on my face and scared the bejesus out of me.
Aw.
And now I don't know. I think that was his head fell off, and it kind of. So yes, I'm a big Batman fan, and it was a bummer not to have this challenge. I would have loved this challenge.
Yeah, for me, I have an appreciation for Batman, going all the way back to Prince's Bat Dance. Got respect for the Batman series. I do like a number of DC characters, but I'm probably more Marvel than DC.
Okay.
But I understand and respect it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Batman is kind of like the Iron Man of the Marvel universe because of the gadgetry and the fact that he himself is not a superhero. Like, he doesn't have superpowers per se, aside from his intellect, and he's the detective, whereas Tony Stark is kind of like the inventor, and they both do all kinds of great things with the technology and so that's their superpower. So yeah, they kind of go in tandem together like that. So you said Marcella that 89 Batman was yours, and that's kind of mine. That was kind of the first. I mean, I had seen some episodes of the classic Batman series, and definitely a different take than what they when they came out with that movie, and it was like, ooh, and Jack Nicholson was like, wow, look what he does. That was just amazing. As a Joker character. So it was. I remember doing that. Plus Michael Keaton. I mean, hello, Pittsburgh native. There we go.
Hello, Pittsburgh. So, right?
Yep.
Pittsburgh shows up again in another episode.
Yeah.
Right.
How about that? So
this would have been so cool. We would have done a black and gold car, kind of represent. It would have been so cool.
Ooh, but see,
we would have had to get Keaton Batman though.
Yes, yeah, that's true. You would have gotten to meet. You would be all interacting with Lego Batman. So,
yeah.
Well, and according to that, the judges, whenever they went through, so there were 7 categories essentially of Batman that that could be done. So, which era would you have done? 89 era, or would you have been more nitty gritty with the the Batman type, or would you have done more cartoony like the original series, or unfortunately the George Clooney, or
No, I for sure would have wanted either 89 Batman or I guess Lego Batman would have been nice, a little cheeky nod to Will, to have that moment with Will, but Shudder Gasp, I've only seen part of it. I've never seen it the whole way through.
So you
Yeah, I would have been obviously okay with 89 Batman, but animated Batman?
Yes.
Like that was where I probably more was at, because I like the animated series. I like Batman Beyond. I, watching cartoons
Yep.
every day. Um, but Lego Batman, I probably would have leaned into that just because you could get really crazy with it and just
Yeah.
chalk it off as to its Lego world.
Right.
Right.
Yep. Yeah. And I was shocked, not shocked, but I guess that one wasn't as popular. But I know a lot of people that grew up, my age and stuff with the animated series, and then they went to Batman Beyond. It was like there was no nod to it. Like they said the animated series, but they're like no, Batman Beyond. They didn't say anything, and I was like, what? I mean, come on. That was like a very very that was a iconic series.
Yeah. It was a little interesting the way that they did the choices. Again, it was just a mad dash for the run. There was a weird little, I don't know if you guys noticed it, but there was a weird little editing moment that I saw where, like, when they grabbed their figure and then ran back to their tables, the little card was already on the table.
Oh, I didn't notice that. I'm gonna have to go back and look.
I didn't catch that.
And then I noticed somebody brought it up online, and I was like, yeah, I did see that. But what I'm thinking is, you got to film things more than once. So I'm sure it was probably just an editing thing.
Right. I'm gonna have to go back and look. That's kind of interesting. Good job, Fox. No.
It's editing. It's the way things are edited, and I'm sure they had to go and grab their minifigures, probably reset, and then go and grab the minifigure again. And the second time they ran back to the table, they forgot to take the card off the end of the table.
Or the 45th time, however many takes.
Or the 45th time, however many times you have to film something like that.
Yeah. So let's go through, and I actually just wrote down the names exactly, like what I had last week, just going in order, and I'm like, all right, so we'll just go through, and see what we thought of their builds and everything, and we'll get to the judging after we go through. So Corey and Rebecca, I have them as first. They had the Batman Forever, so kind of like the the mid 90s era Batman, which would be the Batman Forever and the Batman and Robin with that no one talks about. But I have to say Batman Forever ends up being one of my favorites, simply because I think Val Kilmer does a very good transition between both Batman and Bruce Wayne very well. Very similar to Michael Keaton, but I think he had a little bit more suave, I guess, or whatever, as Bruce Wayne than Michael Keaton does. Michael
Not to mention Tommy Lee Jones and Jim Carrey.
Yes, Tommy Lee Jones played an amazing character. So we're looking at, instead of being, it's still kind of sleek design of the Batmobile versus like the '89, Batman and Batman Forever, or Batman Returns, but more silvery, more kind of even, like almost like classic car-ish, but like, like with like swooping wings and stuff like that. And so they did a Batman limo. How do you think that translated?
So for me, I kind of go back, like, what was the challenge? And then what were they actually told in the challenge brief? Because, like, the fact that some people did cars, some people did boats and a plane, like, it seemed like there wasn't a clear direction in how they kind of did things. For Corey and Rebecca specifically, I know their wheelhouse is entertainment, but I just felt like we saw another element of something that was very easy for them. Like, they did the dancing, they've done DJ stuff, they did a limo, like, everything revolves around the wedding thing. It was cool, but I would have liked to see them do more.
Right.
Or something different.
Yeah, and for me, I'm missing the Batman Forever aspect of this one. I feel like this was a perfect opportunity to even step outside of the brief a little bit and make the vehicle, but then maybe to face the vehicle up and have it being taken over and splatter it with color, because that's what Joel Schumacher did, was splatter that universe with color.
Yes.
And it was okay. It was not my favorite, but it was kind of in the middle of the pack for me.
Yeah, I kind of agree, and I kind of thinking again because I forget who it was that mentioned it with Maya and Jamie's build. They're like, oh, you got these nice wings, but that kind of goes more with the Batman Forever, it kind of goes with that. And like you looked at theirs, and it's like, well, they kind of like Batman Forever,
right?
But yeah, it very.
I think that speaks to the challenge as a whole, because if the challenge was something in this world and you don't know the world, like it's kind of hard to wrap your head around. I feel like there were other teams that didn't have a point of reference, and that's the challenge of IPs in general.
Yes.
Right. But like at the same time, I do wonder what they were told, behind the scenes.
And again, 6 hours.
Yes. Yeah. Only 6 hours for that one.
Only 6 hours.
Yeah.
So,
which makes the and we'll get to them, but like which makes the ones that ultimately won more impressive that they did it in 6 hours.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, yeah, I agree. Kind of in the middle of the pack. I would have definitely liked to see a little bit more of the sweeping, or like I remember in Batman Forever, like the tires had on the outside had like the bat symbol. Like there was just, and that I think it was lacking from a lot of the builds, was just like the bat symbol wasn't even anywhere. It was just kind of like, here's the build.
Yeah.
But Batman was always about symbol. It was always
right.
Like the bat brings the fear, and like a lot of these did not have that.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So Anthony and Joe had the animated series, and so theirs was, now they didn't say it had, well, I can't remember if at the beginning they said it had to be a Batmobile, but it had to be a Bat vehicle, I assume, because this
Bat
in this
vehicle,
case,
I think is what it,
yeah, because in this case they did a Bat spy plane with the ejector seat. Mm-hmm. So let's see, animated series wasn't specifically Batman Beyond, but it was animated series. How do you think that one stacked up to what it was supposed to represent?
I love that they yeeted that Batman figure out of that cockpit. That was probably my favorite moment in the episode. Mm-hmm. My only issue with this one is one of the most iconic images is that bat plane going up against the moon, and it is shaped like a bat.
Oh,
so
okay.
If you're gonna make a bat plane, the plane should be shaped like a bat.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I think, like you said, it's just missing that iconic bat element. So I think they could have gone even further. It's a great plane. I love it. Mm-hmm. I love the mechanic of the cockpit, but I think they could have leaned further into the animated series and that iconic view of the bat.
Oh, for sure.
I concur with that. To me, it wasn't a build that, like, it had its moments and its elements, but I noticed something kind of amongst all of the teams this episode. They all sold their story a lot harder than letting the build speak for itself. Like, even looking at, like, I think it was Will gave Corey and Rebecca the idea of, like, the car salesman. Mm-hmm. Like, they did that whole pitch. And yes, we do a pitch that kind of explains the story, but I think it's Amy that pretty much says the story should speak for itself.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. And I feel like across the board in this, there were only a handful where you saw it and it just made sense as a bat. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. Absolutely. Thinking back to a few of them, it's like they had to say, what was everything that was happening, and it's like, okay, we should be able to see that in the build itself.
Yeah.
I agree there. Yeah. So, already mentioned them a little bit. Maya and Jamie, they had The Batman, which that's actually a series I myself have not watched. I've seen plenty of previews for it and stuff. just was not, something that I was really interested in. I'm not a big Robert Pattinson fan, so it was like, but it's supposed to be very gritty, and so they did the Batboat. And actually had a working net coming out the front, which was
that was cool.
Yeah, I like that because it actually twisted.
Funny.
Yeah.
Like the way Jamie named that, I'm sorry, that was hysterical.
Yeah.
Yep. No, I agree. Yeah. Again
would have been more. It leaned more toward the animated version though than the Batman. The Batman was, like you said, very gritty. It was very dark. It is very good. I highly recommend it. But it is dark.
Right.
So.
Very realistic.
Yes, very realistic. So they could have. I like this build, and I like the lights on the side, and it is very sleek looking. I know at one point Maya was worried about making a power function just to make a power function.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think they could have left it out. It's a neat little mechanism, but I don't know that it necessarily goes with the Batman.
Right.
That actually brings up something I was wondering. Were power functions a requirement? Because it seemed like most everybody did them.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like Anthony and Joe's was just a manual, bloop, you hit the thing and, it ejected. They didn't say power functions had to be, but they said you needed to do something that was Batman gadgety, as is typical of what Batman is, and also specific for the era that you were doing, so. At least from what I recall.
Yeah. I think you're right.
Yeah. But that is kind of the thing too, is like if the power functions make sense, definitely, throw it in there. But like if you can just do it and be like, here, because again, Lego is, overall is a toy, and like that, sometimes the manual bling, and like we have those with like little shooters and stuff like that. So I mean, it kind of made sense, I think, for Anthony and Joe's to just be like, here, bling.
Yeah. And I don't think Corey and Rebecca's had a power function.
No, it wasn't a power function, but they had the snow plow.
Oh, they just had them manually come out the sides, yeah.
That's right.
Yep. So on to Ann and Luke, and Mech Studios already said, I'm going to say this is the 18-wheeler was amazing, and that's what they did, using the Dark Knight trilogy. The semi-truck with the bat cycle inside of it, monocycle, I guess you could say. Two like kind of completely different builds if you think about it, kind of merged into one, and that semi-truck was really pretty well done, I think.
I loved it. I think it was a well-deserved win. Loved it.
I love the story, like the tribute to Luke's grandfather.
Yeah.
The other thing, again, another Pittsburgh reference, because that series was filmed in Pittsburgh.
Yes. Yep.
But you could see that rolling down like Grant Street.
Yes.
Like,
yep.
And all that popping out. It was very much perfect for that world.
Yeah. I'm in that movie. I filmed at the stadium
really?
at that.
Oh, were you? Oh, you were there. So when like Heinz Ward is going running and stuff, you're somewhere up there. Nice.
And Bill Cowher almost exploded himself because he walked the wrong way across the field of live ammunition. I won an iPad from Tom Hardy.
Oh, that's fantastic. Nice.
Yeah.
All right.
Hot.
So
they made us wear winter clothes in the summer.
Which I can imagine would have been no fun.
If you look very closely, you'll see everybody has their jackets like around their waists.
Oh, really?
We're all like dripping with sweat and about to pass out.
It's like, oh, put it back on. Okay. Yeah,
I know, I love Dan and Luke's, and I love the Grandpa Dave story, and I'm so glad that they won the Golden Brick. It was well deserved.
Yeah. Well, at the beginning, the Bat Brick, of course, but yeah, the new Golden Brick, which is kind of funny because it's interesting that the person that the team that wins, gets first place, gets the Golden Brick to get immunity, but if they're getting first place, do they really need it? I mean, like,
right.
Now again, that's for a future challenge where they might not do as well, sure, but it almost seems kind of comical in a way.
Yeah.
Because they've been doing bigger builds and stuff this entire. I mean, like, and that was that very first thing he says, like, I want to go big, and she's like, his mom's like, oh, what? No, come on, we can't do that. We can't do that for everything, and that they do, and it worked out.
Yeah, it paid off for them and I really like the size and scale of it too. It stood out in the room.
Yep.
I think that was a problem with a couple of them. They were just too small.
Yes.
And I do think for Anna and Luke right now, they're on an upward path. I think they found their groove.
Yes.
And especially after the steampunk episode where they kind of like built that huge clock, they kind of got a minor win under their belt. They're starting to come into their own, and I'm really kind of excited to see. Luke loves going big. Like, what's coming next?
Yep.
Yep. No, I agree. The one thing, and I have to go back over and see if I heard it correctly, but I recall whenever they were doing the judging for the truck that they mentioned those panels, like they were all different angles and stuff like that, and I recall I think it was Amy. Can't remember for sure, but they said that like those were a little bit distracting and everything, but then it worked overall for the build. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, it's almost like you contradicted yourself. Again, I have to go back and look, but I vaguely recall that, and I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense then. I thought it looked great.
Those panels. I thought it was a neat build technique that you used there. I thought it looked really cool.
Yeah, I did too.
I was cheering for cheese slopes because I want to do cheese slopes.
Cheese. Which could have worked. I mean, like, yeah, but it looked like they were all individuals, and like they probably had like some kind of hinge or whatever that was like making them go all the different ways.
Yeah.
So they were, and of course they were the winners in the top three. And then we had Ben and Michael, who were the car salesmen. They had Batman Returns, and the '89 Batman with their Bat Tracks Batmobile tank, which kind of I think was, even though it was a good build overall, and I mean the color of the tracks aside, like I don't think that was a big deal. I mean, like if they had just covered over them a little bit, it would have been fine. That which was typical of that era of Batman, where like everything was kind of, you didn't see the wheels. Everything was kind of like hidden and stuff.
Right.
Or very inset, so that like everything kind of like made one full line. I think overall there's hit the mark as far as that era.
Oh yeah, I enjoyed their build a lot. It looked very much like a Michael Keaton era Batman build. It had some pretty decent movement. Did it deserve to be top 3?
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought it was more middle of the pack. It was fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, thinking about like Amy's feedback, because she said it like 2 or 3 times about the gray track, like their tread. That might have been the only color of that was over in the brick pit.
That's true.
I was wondering that. Was there even another color? And that was a strange thing to be. So
yeah. And I meant to look the part up to see what all colors it actually comes in, but whatever's in the brick pits is what's in the brick pit. So
right.
Well, if you didn't have it in that right color and you're like, I should switch this, do you like pivot completely to something that is the right color, or do you just roll with it?
Right.
Yep. And I think given all the other builds that were around, because we've already gone through Corey and Rebecca's, we've gone through Anthony and Joe's, and Maya and Jamie's. Like, I would say theirs definitely should have been in the top, since they did a top 3. I do think, I can kind of see one way, but like, I think they fit the lines well enough, for their era that like, it worked out to be, where it should be. Whereas the other, like we talked about, the bat boat didn't quite measure up enough, or the plane, the plane itself was like, like you said, bat symbol, that makes sense, like, whereas it was a little bit off So I think hitting the era is what makes it, yes, top versus like kind of there, but not not quite.
Well, then we have Ian and Sage, who had the Lego movie, and it was very whimsical. I love the spinning mustache; that was hilarious. And I do think that their build was better than Ben and Michael's this week. I think it had more, it hit the brief more, and that's why I was a little confused as to why we had a top 3, because I thought we had a very clear top 2. I don't know why we had to have a top 3. I'm not judged though.
I agree with you on like them nailing like Lego movie universe, because you have Lego Batman from the Lego Batman movie, but you also have Lego Batman from the Lego movie 1 and 2.
Yeah.
So you're not necessarily confined to the Batman world.
Right.
In Lego Batman, it's Lego Batman in the world of Lego. So to me, the story of now he's a dad, and I was reading some reviews and they were like, when would Batman ever become a dad? It's like, well, in
the comics,
in the Lego world.
Yep.
Well, it's just in this Lego world, like he's like Bat Dad to Robin.
Right.
In the cartoon or in the movie. So yes, he would have some dad-like qualities, and being Will Arnett, like, and being that voice, like you could totally see this being like something that he would voice in the movie.
For sure.
Right. The one thing I thought, and maybe you just couldn't see it in the angles that they shot around for the thing, because it was a Lego lawnmower, right?
Right.
I don't recall seeing blades for the lawnmower. Like that bothered me. Like I was like looking at it and I'm like, well, that's cool. They have the spinning mustache, and that's cool. They have like the big thing and stuff like that. And I'm like, so how does it chop grass? Like if it's a lawnmower, it should have like something that's like. But there was nothing as far as I can remember. Again, might be the angle and stuff like that. But I was like, that just seems like it's missing the primary function of what a lawnmower is. Maybe it just runs over.
It reminded me of something from like Cloud Cuckoo Palace in the Lego movie. Like overly like exaggerated like pieces and stuff. So
yeah,
I really liked it.
It was cute. I agree, and definitely they were top 2 and apparently top 3. But yeah, they were definitely up there. Yeah, I think obviously and Luke's definitely hit the mark just a little bit more, and just had that wow factor. Theirs I don't think, I mean, it has a kind of a wow factor, but I think it's more like a, oh yeah, that's good,
Yeah.
Now we're getting into like where I don't want anyone to go home. So like the bottom 2 this week.
And we already talked about
hard.
one. We already talked about one, Maya and Jamie. And then we get to, and personally too, just because, I know John from Brick Erie last year, like that little heartbreak of oh no, here we go. And they had, John and Justin had the classic era, which just seemed, I mean, from the whole episode, I mean, like, and it's funny too, and I guess this is something that, TV shows do a lot, where they give you the initial, like they're the first ones. As soon as they said Batman, they're like, oh, hey, this is what we've been waiting for. This is awesome. We're so excited. And then throughout the whole episode, it's just kind of a, a slow downward until the end. Maybe just not their wheelhouse, because they're great builders, obviously, but like just not their thing, not their era necessarily. They tried a couple things that were difficult for them, like smooth lines and stuff, which was smart, but obviously very difficult for 6 hours.
Yeah,
I think Justin approached that as he's awesome at doing little spheres. If he had approached that just doing it as an oblong sphere, they would have knocked that out of the park.
Yep.
But I love the pow that it came up. It was very like 1960s Batman and like hokey and corny. And I thought the red was a good fit because
Yes. Yeah.
That world is like bright colors. I feel like the judges were a little harsh on them. I I feel like it wasn't as blocky as they kind of made it out to be.
Mm-hmm.
I also feel like they led them a little bit, telling them that the classic era was very bang, boom, pow. And I feel like that's why they added that little pow in the background. And had it worked, I don't think they would have ended up in the bottom two.
Absolutely, I agree there.
I think the bottom two would have been completely different.
Yep.
But woo, do I know that feeling? We both know that feeling. Right? Oh my
All
goodness.
too well.
I say, have you been there before?
Oh, my heart just sank into my butt. And more butt stuff. It was just
it's always butt stuff with you.
Yeah. My heart.
It was sad that they did it they showed the failure essentially twice. It was like right at the end of that clip, he's just like, oh no, and then they cut away, and it's like they come back to it. So I'm like, in my head, I'm thinking, oh, okay, are they going to fix it, or is it going to work properly? And then it's like still work, and it's just not working. And you could see what it was going to be and what it was going to do, and unfortunately, it didn't.
Yeah.
That I would think, just because the power function, because again, power functions was not the focus, this time. But you knew what it was. You could see, most of it, and then of course he held it up and he's like, hey, but I don't think that would have been what killed them, and that wasn't something they talked about in the judging either, or at least when they were in the bottom two with Maya and Jamie. They just, I'm trying to remember, something about the smoothness of their lines wasn't right. I can't remember exactly what it was.
But one idea I had.
Oh, go ahead.
One idea I had for them was, I like the smoothness of the lines that they had, and I like the idea of the pow, but I was thinking if they had done it more like Ben and Michael's hat idea, like the box, if they would have created some kind of vehicle that had four sides and then hit a button and it popped open and on all four sides it said like bam, pow, boom,
Nice.
And then inside was that vehicle, it would have just,
I like that.
Would
That
have
would
been
have
a
popped.
stunner. Yeah, it would have popped, And you wouldn't have had that complicated, which is not complicated, but in the moment is complicated.
Right.
To have to worry about a power function.
Yeah, two things occurred to me at this point. One, it's 6 hours. It's real easy to get in your own head and get locked into a path because there's no time to pivot at all.
Right. Oh yeah.
So you're in there, you're just we just got to go for it. Whether it works or not, you just do. The other thing that's interesting is this is the second week in a row that power functions have failed on the team that gets sent home.
Oh yeah, that is true. Yeah, that is very true.
So is there if you're going to put it in, it has to execute well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's got to be flawless. You've got to test and test and test, and like you said, with 6 hours, there's just not enough time. Because, one thing you don't realize is, we do realize it, but that clock never stops. So depending on where you are in that room, Amy and Jamie may not get to you until there's an hour left.
Right.
And so whatever their input or feedback is, you've only got an hour to bring that to fruition. Yeah. And like you said, sometimes you either go with it or you massively pivot, and sometimes that massive pivot can lead to disaster.
That brings up an interesting point. So depending on how long you have, obviously, depends on when they come over. Are they there the entire time watching, and then they just randomly go to people, or what was your experience as far as that went?
They make their way around the room throughout the day. So
okay.
It's just when they get to you is when they get to you.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that feedback is because again, they're the ones judging, and if they're pointing out something very specific, then yeah, you kind of either gotta change it completely or at least adjust it so it's like more to what they're suggesting, or yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
So our bottom two, and of course John and Justin get sent home with this, and that's it. To me, again, it was like, it's so rough because, like, again, a lot of their previous builds have just been like beautiful and just like really well done, and it kind of, especially with their enthusiasm with, hey, we get to do Batman like right at the beginning, and again, a little bit of pre whatever of like, hey, this is doesn't always work out that way, unfortunately. Yeah, I'm kind of now again.
I never want to see someone go home.
Yeah, exactly. But we're also halfway through the season essentially, which means the judging, I guess, gets I mean, again, first couple episodes, it's a little bit, everyone's getting used to everything and like, hey, try to go along with figuring out what the judges mean by what they say. But now it's kind of like, okay, now you really have to like zero in. And I think for sure Ann and Luke have definitely zeroed in on what works for them and really doing that. Ben and Michael to a degree, Ian and Sage to a degree also. The others, I think, are still floundering a bit.
Well, to your point, there's less room for error at this point. When the crowd is bigger, you can get those passes on those little things. Now you can't hide anything. So it is that make or break time to see. You have to break everything every challenge, whether it's your strong suit or not.
Yeah, for sure.
And I went back and I was looking at season 1, and I want to be the time fairy. Like, I just want to give them more time. Like, I can only imagine what they could do with more time. Like, season 1, they had 15 hours, 11 hours, 12 hours, 8 hours, 14 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours, 11 hours, 9 hours, and then 19 hours for their final build.
Oh, my word. Like, there was nothing that was below 8, I don't think.
Nothing but 7. 7 was the...
Okay.
Yeah, so 7 was and I think that was their speed build, I think.
Okay.
What's our longest time so far? I think it's been 7 hours.
No, it was a
Ours?
lot.
10. Our
10,
first one was 10.
And that was all
10, then 4, and then 6. And then I think they had
7.
7 and
7 and a half?
6.
Yeah, 7 and a
7
half.
and a half.
And then back to 6. Yeah. So like, which is interesting because you started with 10 for your first one, which is where you're getting familiar with everything, and then immediately down to 6, and then down to 4 again, double teams. But that in itself is so difficult. It's like, hey, everyone's figuring out what everyone else does, and like you're trying to get 4 sets of ideas instead of 2 together. Yeah, oh man, yeah, it's brutal how much time that they don't have essentially.
Yeah. Yep. So I'm proud of them for what they've put out in the time that they've been allotted. I think they're amazing builds. They're amazing builders, and go check out their Instagram pages where you can see some of the builds where they have unlimited time, and you'll see how great builders they are.
Yeah.
It's a lot of pressure to anyone. There's a lot of negativity out there in the world, and I just want people to remember it is a reality TV show. There is not much time. There are a lot of cameras around you, a lot of lights, and it's a lot of pressure. So,
and they're not the people that are commenting on this and saying like, oh, they could have, like, they're not the ones doing it though. So I mean, like, they're not there. So
no.
And to that point too, you don't know what other criteria are put on the teams behind the scenes too, because they don't publicize what that challenge brief is.
Right.
So,
Yeah. No.
Right. So I'm interested to see, like, Corey and Rebecca do a really good job of detailing the episodes a lot of the behind the scenes things. So I'm really interested to see their take this week because they always kind of like what the brief was, and I want to know what it was. So I'm
yeah, that'll be interesting to see. So next, well, no, according to you guys, according to your PR, next week is a rerun. Is it episode 3?
Ooh, wedding cake episode 2.
Okay, it's episode 2. So the wedding cake, and
yeah,
the 4-hour.
But hey,
double
we're back
team
on TV.
Yes, you're back on TV. All right, so at the end of the episode on Monday, 2 days ago, it said next time. At least we think. We don't think it said next week. It said next time.
I looked it up. It did say, it did say next week.
Oh, it did.
Oh, did it?
It did say next week.
Because I looked at the wiki right after, and it already said the masquerade is the 30th. So like,
yeah.
Well, I guess we'll see.
Our best guess is, according to the PR people that Krista and Marcella have talked to, next week is a rerun. So go watch, the cakes being built that are all square when they should be round. But anyway.
So watch our episode 2 review first, and then watch the cake episode.
Yes, there you go. Yeah, there you go.
But if it happens to be the masquerade episode, ooh, I can't wait. This looks good. There looks to be like a lot of drama. I've seen some crashes and some failures in there. But, and the darkest part of my heart makes that cheeky monkey sore. Like, we're not alone, Krista. We're not alone.
That's right. Yeah. The wearable Lego is going to be very interesting. It is not an easy thing to do. Yeah, we'll have to see what happens. So if that is next week, then next week we'll review at some point, potentially. But if it is not, and it's a rerun, then we'll have a week break probably. So it just depends. We don't know. Like until it airs, we don't know.
Yeah. Because we fly out Wednesday. We'll be.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I know for you guys especially. So next week, just in case anyone doesn't know, next week, well, talk about it. You guys are going to Brick Rodeo, so.
Yeah, we're going to Brick Rodeo in Sugar Land, Texas. So we will be there. We will be doing panels. We will be doing signings. We both have mocks. We don't want to know what they are. Yes, we are packing these mocks in suitcases. Yes. I'm trying to figure out if my suitcase is going to be overweight. I have a feeling.
Oh, mine already is.
Yeah, I have a feeling it will be.
Uh-oh.
And then with all the stuff I'm going to bring home, it's for sure going to be.
Yeah. You might have to just ship it, have it shipped.
What if it didn't get there? I'm trying to figure out if I can get it all in my carry-on.
Well, no. Anything you pick up there, get it shipped home.
Yeah. Bring it home.
Yeah. That might be your best bet because shipping actually isn't that, depending on what it is, obviously, but it usually isn't that bad.
That's true. Good idea.
Yeah. And there are actually a lot
split it too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, and a lot. I've seen a lot more vendors and stuff that have offered to be like, hey, we do direct ship or whatever, and it's like, it kind of makes sense, especially if you're not near home. So.
Yeah. For sure.
Yep. So. All right. No, there were other people on the show, and just no one was talking. That's okay, Mac. Other people will watch.
We like square cake. I like square cakes.
Yeah, everybody loves square cake. So.
I just love cake.
Yeah, I do too. I love cake. I like it better than pie. Yep. So, especially ice cream cake. Ice cream cake is delicious.
Ooh, yeah.
With the crunchies in the middle. Yeah. Fudge.
Now I'm hungry. I forgot
to
eat.
So. All right. Well, thanks again for joining me as always. And again, next week's up in the air. We don't know whether we'll have a new episode or whether it's a rerun. So, but until next time, as always, thanks for tuning in. Keep on building, and we'll see you next time.